If you have ever watched Shark Tank, then you know who this guy is. Everyone loves him and wants to work with him because, compared to other sharks, this guy has much more money than you can imagine. Moreover, having him on board can be a big advantage. However, if you take a look at how exactly he made his billions, you will realize that he got pretty lucky. I'm not really a big believer in luck, but when it comes to Mark Cuban, it's fascinating. That's probably why he said, to become a billionaire, you've got to get lucky, but a multimillionaire, no problem. Cuban had an entrepreneurial spirit since the beginning. He started selling garbage bags at the age of 12 to pay for a pair of basketball sneakers, taught disco dancing, and ended up opening his bar back then when he was in university. Nonetheless, the first real business that he started was Micro Solutions after getting fired twice. Micro Solutions was a computer-based company. They resold products, software, and were PC consultants. In 7 years, Cuban grew the company to $30 million in revenue and sold it for a total sum of $6 million to ComputerServe, which was a bigger computer company. That was basically all what Mark wanted, at least at that time, because he took that money and retired. He bought a lifetime pass on American Airlines and lived the life of a party boy, traveling to every country he could ever think about. 5 years later, he probably got bored and wanted to get back into the game. So together with his friend, they founded AudioNet in 1995. The idea behind it was to broadcast sports events and radio shows on the internet so that everyone could watch them from anywhere in the world. Soon later, they realized they can actually broadcast anything from presidential nomination conventions to Victoria's Secret fashion shows. That's why in 1998, they renamed it to Broadcast.com, which gave a better idea of what the company represents. Company's name is the first thing that people notice, so it's essential to get it right. However, today when you want to register your domain, it's most probably taken because people start websites every single day all around the world. That's why I use Hover. With over 400 domain extensions, you will most certainly find what you're looking for, especially since they made the process of registering a domain so simple that you can do it with few simple clicks. Anyways, more on that later. Remember, it was all during the period of dot-com bubble, when most of these tech companies were hyped and overpriced. People simply dumped money into every crap that came out, thinking that it's going to become the next multi-billion-dollar company. All you needed is to launch a website, do some fancy things, and you would have investors knocking into your door. That was precisely the moment when Broadcast.com went public. The stock price soared 250% on its first day of trading, and the company was worth over $1 billion, bringing up Cuban's net worth to $300 million. It seems like they hit the lottery, but that was just the beginning. Because a year later, just before the dot-com bubble burst and the entire market crashed, when dozens if not hundreds of internet companies went bankrupt, Yahoo, which was the internet giant of its time as Facebook is today, suddenly decided to acquire Broadcast.com for $5.7 billion in stocks. It was the largest single e-commerce transaction, increasing Cuban's net worth to $1.7 billion. As Cuban himself said, "We hit the lottery twice," because he realized that, wait a second, it's a bubble, therefore the market is going to crash soon. So he quickly sold his Yahoo shares and diversified his wealth into many different businesses. And that's precisely when the market went down. And guess what happened to Broadcast.com? Exactly, it went bankrupt and Yahoo shut it down in 2002. It's easy to look back and criticize Yahoo for such a bad acquisition, but the internet was at its initial stage, and it was tough to predict which companies are going to survive. Even things such as registering a domain or starting a website were pretty tricky at that time. However, today with Hover, who gladly sponsored this video, you can do it easily in few minutes. Furthermore, with such a great customer support team, you will never get confused with anything. And the good news is that you can get 10% off using the link hover/proactivethinker. Make sure you give them a try, that will really help the channel. Thanks for watching guys, and I will catch you in the next one.